Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of my podcast series, Inside One-on-One Coaching. Now, I've done one of these series before, and what you're about to hear is a real-life coaching call with me. Why I wanted to do this series again is because I think it's really important for you all to hear how money gets talked about behind closed doors. Now, just so you're aware, every single person who you are about to hear inside of this series has consented to being on the podcast. They came into the recording knowing exactly what these recordings would be used for. So with these coaching calls, there's a few reasons why I want you to hear them. One is because I think it's important to hear that we all have so many of the same money narratives that we're trying to work through, financial struggles that we're trying to work through, right? You're not special, but in the best way, right? In the most liberating way. That's one of the reasons I want you to hear these. The second thing is I want you to hear how much we can accomplish, whether it be mindset or tactical, can be accomplished in just 30 minutes. Each of these coaching calls was a 30-minute coaching call. And most of these people I had never worked with before. So I want you to hear how much we get through in just 30 minutes. And I want you to hear that as just 30 minutes of intentional focused time on your money can yield so much results. Okay. There's this huge misconception that getting your money shit together is going to take hours and hours and hours and so much time and energy and all of this stuff. And like, sure, maybe some methods, maybe some financial advice that is out there. Yes, that would be the case. Not here at Not Starving Artists, baby. We got too much art and too much change in the world to do to let money take up too much of our life. So I'm so excited for you to hear these coaching sessions. If you yourself are interested in one-on-one coaching with me, you can find all of the details at the link in the show notes. You can also find it at notstarvingartist.com under the tab One-on-One Money Mentorship. Now let's get into it.
Hi.
Hi, Olivia. It's good to see you.
You too.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. There was just an earthquake like 5 minutes ago.
Oh my God. Are you okay? Is everyone in your...
Yeah, we're good. It was super short, but it was pretty big for, I mean, not big, but it was noticeable.
That's crazy. Are you in LA? You're somewhere in California, right?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. That's wild. I'm gonna have to text my sister later. She's also in LA. So thank you for letting me know.
Of course.
Okay. So Olivia, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm excited to coach you today. I read your form, but I'd love just to know who you are, what you do, what's your vibe. Give me the rundown.
Yeah. Well, I graduated from USC a year ago, so
Congrats.
Thank you. So this past year just been, adjusting to life outside of school.
Yeah.
Let's see. I studied theater and also early childhood education. Mostly just out of interest for the early childhood education part. I'm oldest of four, so I've worked a lot with kids and I really love it. But like acting and entertainment has always been like the big goal. Let's see what else. I was teaching at a preschool full time and I just finished that maybe 10 days ago on August 2nd.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was the first time that I've ever like quit a job, I guess, aside from just like when I have to, like for school or I'm moving or whatever. But yeah, I'm actor, writer. I'm also a tour guide at Universal Studios. So that's super fun. What else? I'm like, I don't know. There's so much.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm currently working on something. I was
You're
just
writing, right?
Yeah, I'm writing. And then I was also just been like filming something with friends, up in like the mountains for the past 2 days. So that's been fun as well. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything?
No, that was a great rundown. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and start with, because I know one of the things that you wrote in your form was you're going into this new phase of life, right? So income is going to look a little bit different. Also, you're not like freshly graduated, but also it is like a new season now, right? Post-graduation. So talk to me about what you want to focus on today for our call, or what's on the forefront of your mind.
I think for me, I really just going into this new part where I'm not going to be working a standard full-time job. I have two part-time jobs, but they're very seasonal based on kind of one of them's at Universal, so it's kind of based on when the park is busy. And then the other one is this chocolate store that just opened up, which is great, but it's a small business. So it's also kind of up in the air. It's not like I can be like, oh, I'm making this amount of money per month. Whereas, the past year, I was like, okay, like I know what I'm expecting to make, but also like I wasn't making as many or like really I wasn't making as many steps towards my career as I wanted to be, just because the job itself wasn't conducive to that. I was getting sick a lot because I was working with 2-year-olds. So I think I just like, it's very daunting going into this new phase, being like, I want to have my time and my energy and my health to be able to make the moves towards my career that I want, but also understanding the reality of like, well, I also need to be able to pay my rent and my bills. And there's a finite, amount of money that like has to go to certain places per month. And just, I think kind of just focusing on like how that works. Cause money's always been kind of like scary to me, just because, growing up, we didn't have a lot of it. So I think that's always been like this is a very real possibility, and like not a way I'm like interested in living the rest of my life. But I also just have like kind of like a very hopeful optimism, like, well, things are going to work out, but also like you have to make sure things work out.
Right.
So I think I would love to just focus on kind of just like how to go about, I don't even know how to phrase it, but just how to go about this like new thing I'm doing, I guess, like not being so stressed, but also like being aware of the fact that, hey, you got to make money, and just like how to navigate that while also trying to, pursue your creative endeavors. I think that's just like, it seems like a very big task, and I think I want to make it feel more manageable.
Sure, of course. So, first things first is making sure that what you're spending is what you're making, right? Like that's baseline, right? Breaking even, that's always the first place we want to go. So, you transitioned 10 days ago out of that other job is what you said, right?
Yes.
Cool. So, these two new jobs are currently in place.
Yes.
Cool. Do you know what you average making in these two new jobs right now?
It's it's hard to estimate monthly, just because Universal is by season, and also they schedule by seniority. And because I've been at the preschool for the past year, I'm kind of not really up there in seniority. But for probably the end of this month until end of October, I'll be working mostly full time, which will be good. What that would come out to a month, I'm like, I can do some quick math. Let's
Do some
see.
quick math.
Let's see. And let's pretend I'm working. That's 24 hours. So that would be, I have not done multiplication on paper in forever.
Right. And as we're
Um,
doing this math, the reason I'm asking for specific numbers is because when we're going about like the kind of this big idea of I want to survive and be an artist, right?
mhm.
What that actually means is we have to go like minuscule into the numbers, what's
Yeah.
going out and what's coming in. Then we can talk about calendar space and free time. Then we can talk about increasing income. Then we can talk about what your creative goals actually are. So there's a couple of different stepping stones that encompass this big amorphous thing of living as an artist, right? So we're going to the most minuscule part right now. So what numbers did you come up with there?
So erring on like the side of caution, I just pretended I'm going to be working 3 days at Universal and 1 day at the chocolate store, because I feel like that's generous for the next few months. That would be 552 a week,
Okay.
which I don't know if my math is wrong, but that's what that would be. Because I did 3 days at Universal, 1 day at the chocolate store, and that would be 552 a week with that before taxes. Yeah. So
Cool.
that's what that would be, I think, for like the next couple months, just because I signed up to do these like these other tours at Universal for Halloween, just because they're guaranteed more hours and everything. Because I'm like, yeah, I need that.
Yeah. So you're saying this would be including those extra hours, or the hours would increase after this?
Including, I do think there's a potential that they could be more, but I wanted to err on the side of caution, just because I do know they schedule by seniority, and I just don't know how that's gonna look yet.
Of course.
But yeah, so pretending that would be about, the math I did right now is working 28 hours a week. I have a feeling I would end up probably working an additional day, or maybe an additional day at the chocolate store as well. So it might end up being more than that, but I would
Sure.
rather.
Yeah. So let's say 2,200 a month. That's what
Okay.
552 a week comes out to for 4 weeks, right? Again, erring on the side of caution.
Mm.
So, talk one, does that number surprise you? Is that about what you expected? What comes up with that number?
That's more than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because yeah, that does surprise me. That's more than I thought it would be. Um, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Sure. That's interesting. Why do you think it's more than you thought?
um well, because I think I've been in this mentality of just being prepared to not work as much. Just because yeah, with Universal it is so kind of up in the air. And also same thing with the chocolate store. Like sometimes I'll have like 3 hours a week, sometimes it's upwards of 10. Like it really just depends. So I also think my brain is just wired to be like, well, I'm an anxious person. So I think it's just very much to be like, okay, well, like if you're prepared for like the worst case scenario, like I would rather live by that. Like I don't know. Like I think I would rather just be like, okay, of the mindset of like you have to be careful, but so I don't know. I think I'm just yeah, I think I've just it's been very daunting, especially because like this month I knew I wasn't going to be working as much, but like I planned for that in terms of just like saving and everything. So I'm good for this month, but um yeah, I think I've just been of the mindset of like okay, it's very scary you're not going to work because especially when the new year comes around, I know like January, February into March, people don't get scheduled at Universal very often. So I think I'm also preparing for that. Um and like looking forward to the part where like okay, I'll probably need to get another source of income for those few months. So I think I'm just yeah, I think my brain is just in like uh-oh, new territory. Things are scary.
Yeah. So I see two things happening here, and you want to be on to yourself with these thoughts, right? So when you're thinking like, okay, I want to be conservative, I want to prepare to make a lot less than maybe I
Mhm.
will, right? You want our brains love to be happily surprised,
Mhm.
right? And they can't be happily surprised if we overestimate,
Yeah.
right? And so often you drastically underestimate and you put yourself in kind of worst case scenario. So anything above worst case scenario is like, woohoo, it's good, like we're okay. But
Yeah.
what happens is when you're basically shooting for worst case scenario, when you're planning around worst case scenario, you don't give yourself the ability to thrive, to be in abundance, to bring in all of these opportunities and other things that comes from like expecting better. Okay. So that's one thing. Second thing is, tactically, it's great to err on the side of like conservative numbers. It's great that you have in your brain, I know they don't schedule us as much January and February, but instead of trying to come up with some like band-aid solution for it, it's like, okay, moving forward, I don't like how inconsistent scheduling is with this specific job. And I want, even if my income fluctuates, I need a little bit more consistency than what they can give me, right? We can be thinking longer term solutions. What comes up as I say that?
Um I think it's interesting because yeah, that one with like long-term solutions. The thing is, as a job, it's a great one to have for actors, entertainers, because it is very flexible. And I think it's yeah. So I think my whole plan, this was like my line of thinking, because I just turned 24. I'm on my dad's health insurance for 2 more years. Um, and so I was like, okay, I want to take advantage of that and be able to do all these, little jobs here and there and like just kind of before I feel the need to be like, okay, well, I need health insurance. So like I don't want to get stuck. Um, so that was kind of like my thinking of like I like Universal and I think it is a good job for me. So like I don't know if I'd want to like be like, oh, like goodbye to that job. Um, I think for me, yeah, it's just thinking about finding like what I guess like figuring out what works in tandem with that job so that way like I can, keep that job that I want, but also, make the money that I need to make to sustain myself. Um
I'm going to point out a sneaky thought you're having.
okay.
You have the thought that there is not another job out there that is better than Universal. So thank God Universal employed me. And that's a very common artist thought, right? Of, okay, I have a job. it's flexible enough. It works with my artistic life. Like, yeah, there might be some downsides, but like, thank God I don't want to rock the boat. Like, and what that sneaky thought is I couldn't do or have more than this, better than this. This is as good as it gets, and I don't want to fuck it up.
Mm.
What's coming up as I say that?
I think it's interesting because I really do enjoy that job, but yeah, again, I also like it's the balance of wanting to make sure that I have the flexibility to do my creative things, but also like the income to fund that. And I think that's a tricky balance. And it's also hard because it feels like I don't know, it almost feels like there's like a curtain over like the perfect jobs to have as an actor. And like it's just like I don't know why it feels like this secret to hack. And I know that's like not the case. But there obviously are jobs that are a lot more conducive to kind of like the lifestyle I would need and want. But it's just like it's like a lot to wrap your head around of like just kind of figuring out what works, I guess, because you don't really know what works and what doesn't work until you're doing it.
Yeah. So alongside this, what I also want to be very clear about, and also what I think your brain is saying here as well, is if we start thinking about another option that isn't universal, SOS, universal is on the chopping block. We've left the job. We're in a horrible situation. Oh no, I don't like this new thing as much as universal. Like it goes to this place where if you even allow yourself to think the thought, what else is out there for me? All of a sudden, it's like your safety comes into play where it's like, no, 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 no. I like what I have. Okay. I don't want to give up what I have. Where instead, I want you to keep universal. Let's keep universal. Let's keep the income. Let's keep the flexibility while you're going through these next 2 years where you're still on your dad's health insurance. You still have that income that you know that feels comfortable, that feels safe and gives you flexibility. And start asking yourself the question, what's it going to look like 3 years from now? What do I want it to look like 3 years from now? What other options are available? We'll get into numbers here in a second too, because we've only started with your income. We haven't talked about your expenses and your goals, which is another part of this equation. But I want you to know, I want to like talk to your nervous system here, that you don't have to like kick universal to the curb, kick your current safety to the curb while you're playing with this new idea of like what else could be out there. What's
Yeah.
coming up there?
No, I think that's an interesting perspective to look at because I think it can get very daunting. And I definitely am like again, I said I'm an anxious thinker. Like of course I'm thinking like, okay, well like and I'm thinking like, okay, we'll have to do this and which I think to an extent I do appreciate about myself because you know, I think it keeps me on track, but at the same time, like that's a lot to ask of present me. It's a lot to ask of present me to figure out the future. And I like that I'm able to look towards the future, but I don't want to stress myself out so much in the present that I'm like not truly in it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because yeah, I think that is a very like helpful way of framing it in terms of long term where I want to be, where I want to see myself. And I think right now it was just like especially tricky because I was like, oh my goodness, like this is all like new and I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I do like that framing of thought
And just
about
like planting the seed is what we're doing right now, right? You kind of have a 2 year runway, is like what your brain is offering you. Let's just sit there where it's like, okay, and we know, like, tell me, do you imagine yourself working at Universal long term, 10 years from now?
10 years. I mean, like, no, I feel
Right. Okay. So right there, right? So it's like if there is not a part of you that's like, fuck yeah, I can totally see that. I love that. Amazing. Great. Let's plant the seed now. There's gonna be an off ramp at some point. We might
yeah.
as well let the subconscious start dabbling on what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like the ideal goal would be, I mean, again, and I don't want to like set a timeline for myself because I think that gets scary. Because if I'm like in 5 years, if I'm not like making a living as an actor, I'm like that is not me at all. Because I think that there is way too much going on in the industry and the business to give myself that hard of a deadline. And also like I'm young. But I also do think like, yeah, I do in 10 years, I'll be in my mid-30s. Like I would love to be, you know, at least actively working in the thing that I've seen myself working in since I was 9 years old. Because like yeah, that's always been a goal. And I do think it's like great. And I wouldn't mind, you know, having it on the side because, things ebb and they flow. Like we're not like, oh, here are my hours that I'm clocking every week as an actor. Like here's them, like it changes. You can't guarantee it. But I do think like if I got to like write like if I got to like turn it in and be like, here's what I want, like, yeah, I would be a working actor, and that's what I would be like making my sole income off of. Like that. And I want to be able to make the steps towards that. So that way, yeah, in like 10 years or however amount of time it takes me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm glad yeah, I'm doing what I want to be doing. Like I'm on track.
Yeah. I want to plant this seed for you. We're going to plant another seed here because this is something that I see. And again, as an actor myself, right? This is something I've had to come to terms with. You will put up with a lot of things that are less than in your life if you believe that there is some golden moment in your future where you have now crossed over into full-time working actor and your whole life is now acting and all of your income comes from acting and like, but there's not any real parameters. It's just like consistently working as an actor. That's just like what your brain is saying. Like we book the regular, or like we are consistently booking regional gigs or whatever it is. You will put up with so much in your life that is not up to par with what you actually want out of life if you believe that at some point acting will totally take over your life, right? Yeah. And I want to point that out and start planting this seed because I have watched so many actors, myself included, so many actors who did book the series regular, who are getting the co-stars, who are working regionally, who are having a renaissance basically 5 years into being a full-time working actor, realizing, oh, I thought that this would solve all of my life stuff. And I put up with so many other things and I didn't start planting seeds of what else I wanted in my life, how else I wanted to bring in income even until I got here because I thought this would solve all the things, right? And so I see a lot of actors holding on to jobs that are good enough, right? And let me also be very clear. This is not me saying quit Universal. That's not it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm seeing a through line with so many actors who it's like you hold on to this thing that's good enough because at some point I won't need any of that and acting will make everything better, right? And that just doesn't come. Yeah. So we're planting the seed of what else could we start adding into life now? What's coming up for you as I say that?
No, I definitely agree because I think like, yeah, the goal is to be doing what I want to do, but I don't have like a clear plan of like, well, then I'm going to be a series regular and then I'm going to start a movie and like, I just like that. I know
that's how it works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ladder.
If only. Yeah, I think I'm aware that like, that's just like, I have no idea. I have no idea what the future holds for me acting wise. I know I have faith in like my capability and my talent. It's kind of just about like, what, I don't know. It's just about like doing it and figuring it out. And I think that's kind of where it's like, yeah, because that's also just thoughts I've had too. Cause like it's a crazy industry. It's a crazy business. And I want to be more than just an actor. I love life. And I think that's also partially probably like why I wanted to be an actor, but like, I love life. I love experiencing it. Like I want to do more than just that. But I've also just like, as I've, done many things, I've realized like, well, this is like how I want to be making money. Like, I don't want my job to be something that I dislike. Crazy thought. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. Cause I don't want to just be like, well, once I make my income off, then I'm set, then I'm great and I'm perfect and I'm done. Cause I think there's so much more than that, but that feels like such an abstract idea because it's like, okay, what? Then what?
Right. Okay. So we've planted some seeds here. I want to jump back to your numbers now, unless there's anything else you wanted to share, questions, thoughts, feelings before we jump.
No, I'm good right now.
Cool. So we've talked about your income now. Talk to me about your life expenses. What does it cost to live as Olivia month to month?
Okay, so I have a rent, which is $10.90, but I just make it 1,100 in my brain because it's here. So 1,100, and then I just moved, so I'm not super sure like what my utilities and whatever are looking like. In my brain, again, this is like me being conservative. In my brain, I made it 200. I don't think it's that much at all. Sure. But I figured I was like, I would rather just estimate that and then like be like, okay, cool. I have money set aside or like money set aside for like during those times when I may not work as much.
Mhm.
So that I'm estimating about like 200. I'm trying to think. I think when I like was trying to map it out in my brain, I was like prepping myself like minimum for just like life things, gas, like fun stuff like that, car stuff, whatever. I was estimating about 1,500 a month. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet, just because this is my first month living at this new place. And
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was estimating about 1,500 a month just to like factor in like, okay, I'm getting gas at like a few times a month. I'm hoping to be spending less on gas because I was working really far away from, not really far away, but just like LA far away from where I
Yeah.
was living before.
It's
Um,
short. Like that thing, LA is an hour away from LA. Yes.
exactly. But yeah, 1,500 I think was like also groceries. That's people need to eat. Yeah, I think okay, if we do 13, I'm just gonna write things down. 1,100 for rent, 200 for utilities. I'm gonna do I was spending like $50 on gas a week. I'm hoping it's less now, but I'll make it 200 just for fun.
Sure.
Um, and then I'll just do like I'm gonna do that. Okay. So I think 600, probably realistically closer to 1,700 a month is like what I'd be spending. And that's just being like generous with like miscellaneous expenses and
Sure.
everything. An estimate, maybe.
So your homework is I want you to go prove that hypothesis correct. So I
Okay.
want you to go and actually find these numbers.
Hmm.
I always have people find your firm and your flex number. You're going to find two different numbers. Your firm is anything that's an auto pay, a bill, something that gets auto pulled. So that's like your Netflix, your subscriptions, your insurance, all of that stuff, right? It's not just your non-negotiables, but it's anything that's auto pay, auto pulled. And then your flex is groceries, gas, eating out, entertainment, random things on Amazon, shopping, whatever it is. That's your flex number. Your
Mm-hmm.
flex number is the one that's going to fluctuate month to month, but you do have a range, and it's probably not as big of a range as your brain thinks it is. So go and do a spending audit. So you're going to go into your past 3 months of bank. Do you spend on a credit card or off a debit card?
Both. Depending on.
Cool. So go through both then, your checking account statement and then your credit card statement. And I want you to look and find those numbers, right? Calculate everything that's a firm and then find your average flex month to month to month. The only thing I want you to like disregard, like, I don't want you to disregard if it's like, oh, well, it was like Pride. And so we went out and had a lot more drinks. Like, we don't need to disregard that. But if you like bought a plane ticket, you can disregard that because that will come out of savings in the future.
Mhm.
So I want you to go find those numbers, prove this $1,700 correct or incorrect. A good
Okay.
estimate or a bad estimate, right? Let me not put you on a binary. Let's see how close you were in your estimate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's good or bad. Um, and let's get that number for sure. Okay. Because that is like when you have that number and you compare it to that average income number and continuing to track your income, right? Like proving that hypothesis correct too as you move forward to see how much wiggle room you actually have in between your income and expenses.
Mhm.
Questions on that?
No, I think that makes sense. And I think that that's something that I've known has just like been, I don't want to say my problem, but just I think because again, growing up, like not having a ton of money, I feel like that financial literacy, I was not taught it. And so like it just, I feel like it gets very overwhelming to the point where I'm like, well, like I'm just gonna be so careful with money all the time and it'll be fine. And like, great, but also like it's very stressful. Like if I like want to go and like buy some clothes and then I'm like, well, who knows? Like, we'll see. And like, that's not a way I want to live. I think it's just like something that's so hard to teach yourself of like, okay, like this is how money works because just like people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've been meaning, I'm like, I need to, and like my family and whatever, my grandma and like my brother, they'll be like, oh, like a budget. And I'm like, that just like that is more scary to me because like I don't like yeah, I like the idea of an estimate because like things change. Like one month I may like want to buy a new pair of jeans and whatever. And then the next month I might like, you know, not do a single thing aside from like pay my rent and groceries and whatever. So I think like a budget can get very stressful for me because I like don't I don't want to be like, well, I only have $50 to spend this week. Cause like, that's just not how my life works. I'm not spending the same amount of money all the time. Yeah. So an estimate is helpful.
Yeah. And so let me speak to that too, because you're talking to the anti-budget money coach,
Yeah.
right? We don't budget over here.
Yeah.
But what's so great about having those big picture numbers in your brain and on paper, and this is part of the anti-budget money strategy I teach, that money flow method, where you're actually going to like separate in a separate bank account or on a separate credit card that flex spending. So like if you do buy jeans, great, but that doesn't mean now like you've gone over your shopping budget. It just means you're going to be checking in on your credit card statement as the month goes on and calibrate to make sure you're staying within that one big picture number. So you don't have to micromanage. So like, yeah, let's take those barriers and those things that peak up your avoidance and your resistance because of how you grew up. Let's like take those away to be like, all you have to do, you just have to worry about one number, not all these categories, not to track, just the one number. So go find that one number.
Okay. That feels a lot more manageable.
Good. I'm so glad, because that one number, like at the end of the day, a budget is like all these different categories, but it is to create this like one number that you stay under. So like, let's just get rid of all the other shit that doesn't matter. Just focus on the one number so you can still hit your goals.
I'm just saying that's a lot more, manageable. That's a lot easier to swallow. Cause I feel like putting things into categories immediately like makes my brain be like, okay, we're behind, or like it just like sets off like alarm bells that I feel like don't need to be there.
Yeah. So the good news here is the estimates that we currently have, you're in the green, baby. That's good. Right? 1,700 to 2,200. You've even got wiggle room to be in the green. So even just like giving yourself a moment to be like, holy shit, I'm okay. Right? Let's go make sure those numbers are actually correct. But you as an artist being able to support yourself in this way, you're not only breaking even, you're in the green. That's an incredible feat.
Yeah. I think it's just tricky for like when you're like, okay, I think it's also just like preparing for those months, like let's just pretend I don't find anything, which I don't think is going to happen. Like I don't know what it'll be, but I know I will figure something out. I have no doubt in that, but I'm just like pretending like, okay, let's pretend I don't work for January and February and just like,
yeah, let's pretend that. I know exactly where you're going. Let's pretend that. So if you're spending 1,700 and you're bringing in 2,200, you have $500 of surplus a month, right? Let's even conservatively 300, right? If there's discrepancy in taxes, $300 a month, $300 a month for the next 4 months, right? That's $1,200. So you've got now $1,200 in savings.
That's true.
Right? Take that 300 and buffer yourself for when you have those lower income months. That's why we do this. That's why we give you wiggle room.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I have a savings account. Like I'm good on that front, but I'm also like trying to pretend that doesn't exist because I don't want that to be the money that I use on my rent. Like that is my money for like other things. I just like want to keep it there. And like, obviously like if I need it, it's there. But like, I think that's also just like trying to wire my brain of like, you're okay.
Yeah.
But also don't rely on that.
I'm going to give you a podcast episode to listen to.
Okay.
It's about splitting up your savings because right now all of your savings are earmarked for emergencies. And so you're not even going to allow yourself to support yourself as an artist whose income fluctuates. And that's going to result in a lot of financial anxiety. So it's an episode called something like Splitting Up Your Savings. I don't have the title pulled up, but if you scroll back a couple of months, you'll see something about savings, splitting up your savings. Save more without cutting back is a good one. That's your homework. Any podcast episodes you see on the Not Starving Artist podcast around saving, listen to it.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. All right, Olivia, it was so lovely to get to coach you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Good luck. Have so much fun at Universal during Halloween.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be crazy. I'm excited.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, Olivia.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.